we are actually in a business which is completely consumer facing, and I wouldn't really say it's social networking as much as networking with our ultimate consumers at the end of the day. We've actually started a concept called the community board at our stores, and the whole purpose of the community boards was really to get feedback from the community at large. But coming specifically to the issue of learning and the whole role of a chief learning officer, I completely agree with Arun when he says that, it's, in my view, a chief learning officer is not a solitary position in the organization.
Right.
A lot of the people in different positions actually play that role. Suffice to say that the chief learning officer really builds the organization into a learning organization. But I think it's very important for organizations which are in domains where there are very few domain specialists to quickly build a learning organization, build scale, and build very quickly a common set of purpose and common set of processes and a common set of learnings to be able to benefit. So it's really about constant learning. It's about creating organizational culture to bring this about.
Yes, absolutely. We live in a very competitive environment, and for that reason, learning and development becomes that much more crucial. So I wanted to ask you this as well. In terms of an HR function, which is how we understand the domain of the role of a CLO, have you seen that kind of activity in your own sphere of work?
No, absolutely, absolutely. And as Thomas was saying, I think you enjoy success only if the entire organization is aligned.
Yes.
And therefore, it starts with first creating a common vision, which everyone, in fact, buys into and subscribes to. And the best way to do that is actually to have everyone, in fact, involved and participative in defining what that vision for your organization should be. So in our company, for instance, we've created what we call the President's Club. This is a club of all high achievers. And there is no segregation done on the basis of rank or seniority. So this is all levels, starting from people at the junior most level, including secretaries, going right up to the managing director of the company. So that has been critical. And after that, obviously, the communication around the organization, ensuring that everything from your screensavers and your PCs, all the way through to posters, leaflets, reminders to people as to what is the vision of this organization. So by the end of maybe a couple of months after this program, everyone in the organization is talking about this vision. Mm-hmm. So that's been very critical.
You tell us, from your experience in terms of research that has been done in this kind of field, what is it suggesting? Because as we understand it, and I could be wrong and perhaps I could be corrected as well, 30% of all US corporations have a CLO. What is the situation in India?
Of course, I wouldn't be able to deal with the corporate sector and the CLOs within it. There may be other people who deal with. I come from a sector which deals with university education, development. In development sector, the vision is that another world is possible. A world without poverty, a world without deprivation, a world without the processes that create.
You're seeing an opportunity over here, yes, obviously. How important is it for an organization to have this one person, the CLO? Because obviously over here, you're saying it needs to be all across.
I'd say it's just as important as having a COO or a CEO. Every manager needs to, share the vision of the entire organization, the board, and the leadership, and translate it to his subordinates. And the same thing needs to happen with the CLO. But you need a single individual at the learning head to show that vision. Whether it's the CLO, the head of HR, the COO, CEO, I don't know. We'll find out.
No, that's what I wanted to ask. Why can't a CEO do exactly this? Why does it have to be another person?
He's got to manage the shareholders as well.
He's got enough of his plate. You do agree?
I completely agree with, the view that every senior officer really plays the role of a learning officer. But it would be useful for an organization to have a person who's driving this change throughout the organization. and is sort of seen to represent the whole structure of creating a learning organization.
I'd like to ask the panel, would you put your head of customer service as your CFO tomorrow? Or your head of production who's running a factory as the CFO or the CIO?
For a period of time.
Tomorrow, there's an opening. Would you do that? Panel.
I mean, we do it.
Well, I think the answer to that is certainly no, unless you feel that the person you're looking at has the capability to straddle different domains, and you know that he has the capability to learn and absorb. But specifically in answer to your question, no, and that goes back to what Geeta said, that I think there is a need for a certain domain knowledge and a specialization which this role brings. So everyone cannot play the role of a CFO.
Domain knowledge is important.
But we would expect every manager to have strong financial acumen and understand the business. And that's the way a chief learning officer has to be positioned, rather than someone who's all the other competencies. But it's an expertise.
It is an expertise. You need that certain domain knowledge. Why don't you bring us up to speed with what you really require to, as qualities in terms of domain knowledge for a CLO?
This is just like any other function. And I'm a little surprised on why the debate on the need for a functional head. There's so much of automation in finance today. Can we question the role of a CFO? I mean, accounting, finance, taxation, it's all done online, it's outsourced. So can we say, well, can I outsource my CFO? As far as the CLO designation in India goes, we are probably a decade ahead of our time. And I just hope that through forums like this and through debates like this, we can shorten that decade to probably a few years.
What does one do when you have a problem like that and you say that, look, this is what it's going to take? And obviously everyone has schedules. It was very difficult for us to pull ourselves, like I started out by talking about our own learning and development activity. How do you find that problem?
So let me maybe answer several of the questions and comments that have come up in some. Firstly, in our organization, for instance, because attrition has been an issue and because employee engagement is regarded as being critical, it is in fact part of the KRAs of all the business leaders. And there are provisions made for the Q12 scores from the Gallup surveys, and the ability to control attrition in the departments, and the investment made in training mandates. Also, a lot of what I'm hearing is actually saying pretty much the same thing. The only question is, do you want to create that entity, or if you're anyway achieving the same outcome because of alignment within the organization, is it one and the same thing? I think some of the speakers have said yes, others have said it creates focus. Some could argue that just by having that designation, we're actually parking a lot of the issues and maybe actually diverting the focus from everyone else's responsibility by saying this is the guy who will do learning in this organization.
I'm sorry, we're running completely out of time. Lots of views coming in. I'm sure we can take our discussions offline as well. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this show and on the CLO Summit. And of course, we will carry on discussions. It is a good idea to carry on this debate. If we can have a quick show of hands on people who believe that we need a CLO in organizations. And on the dais. Yes. Right. So the majority over here, obviously, feels the need for a CLO. There are points that work against it, and sometimes you say you don't need one specific person, like points being made over here. But the debate carries on, and we hope that in times ahead, we will get to the second level of this discussion, as also the CLO Summit will. Thanks indeed for joining us here on Bloomberg QTV.
So the motion stands carried, I think.